Hello everybody, I'm Alexey Krabrov, the organizer of SF Scala, and for the first time we're here at LendUp, and with us we have Rolando Manrique, who is a speaker tonight, and he is the principal software engineer at LendUp. Welcome, Rolando.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for hosting us.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit how did you get into LendUp, what you were doing before, and what kind of technology are you guys using here?
Sure. I started LendUp very recently, just earlier this year in January. I came recommended by a friend, and as soon as I joined, they mentioned that they needed a revamp of their data pipeline, and that's how that's the project that kind of get me introduced into the company. We are looking for scale now. We're making sure that we can grow with our business, and we have to have a data pipeline that can support the data growth that we're expecting for the next few years, and be able to process all the records that come through our different external providers. So that's kind of what that was the motivation to build something like Blobstore, which is the talk that we're going to do today. It's basically we had to have something that would allow us to scale significantly in the years to come.
And obviously we're at SF Scala, and you guys are using Scala.
Yeah.
So how did you come to use Scala? What's your personal story with Scala?
Well, my personal story with Scala, it started at Verizon when a lot of very famous guys in the Scala community were working there. I think I was lucky enough to get introduced to the Scala world alongside a group of people that was really helpful at helping others. I mean, you could ask guys like Stu or Team or any of these guys that have done talks in the past, and go ask them about questions on libraries that they've
Stu O'Connor or Tim Perret.
Yes, Stu O'Connor and Tim Perret.
How about Runar?
And Runar, definitely. With the Red Book, we could actually ask questions directly to him, and it was a very good experience for me, and I was able to learn a lot from these guys. From there, I came here to LendUp, where they have the motivation to move to a functional programming language, to move to a kind of platform that would scale, and I think my experience building pipelines at Verizon with very large-scale data sets was a very good fit to the LendUp needs. So I think it was a good move, and I'm enjoying myself here.
So Tim and Stu and Runar were all speakers at our meetups and conference, Scale by the Bay, which is in November. And you guys should submit a talk to the CFP. I mean, Runar gives one of the most beautiful but hardest talks, right? So he sets the bar very, very high. So I'm just curious, out of curiosity, how does it work in a kind of day-to-day setting, right? Obviously, most folks probably will have questions about all this stuff. I
think that was really interesting because I definitely can sit in one of those talks, and I say to myself, I'm definitely not a functional guy. I'm not at that level. I'm definitely not at Runar's level or Daniel Spivak or any of these guys. But it was very satisfying that you could approach any of them with a very basic question, and they feel motivated to teach people, and they feel motivated to have more developers join the community and understand this concept. And that's kind of what my talk is about. It's like, you don't have to be at the level of the really famous category theory guys. You can produce very good code if you use the right tools in the functional toolbag. I think Blobstore is a very good example of this. Okay,
and so I noticed it's called FS2 Blobstore, and like basically functional streaming. It looks complicated. So I'm curious, how is it to use it and maintain it in production? Because you probably need to understand thoroughly to debug it when something goes wrong. So how does this kind of beautiful theory translates to maintainability of this code?
Yes, it is definitely very high complex level of streaming programming that we're doing here, but FS2, I think, is a great tool that provides you with most of the abstractions that you need. We're going to see in the implementation samples that I'm going to show in the presentation that you You just need to use the tools correctly. And if you have an input stream, you just use the read input stream function that FS2 provides, and then you have very good tools that allow you to be very resource conscious and be safe in the use of your resource and make sure that you're not leaking anything. And it allows you to just using very abstract or very high level tools to actually make use of this very complicated set of code that they built for us.
Okay, and so you mentioned you have basically a variety of input sources, right? So you have to interact with a lot of services. I mean, I used to a while ago work in a payment company, so I can understand. Like you have like a crazy amount of services. Some of them probably legacy. You mentioned FTP, right? So I wonder, how does Scala help you with this?
No, it definitely helps a lot, and we're talking legacy as in like batch COBOL files coming from bank mainframes.
Yes.
So what Scala is, it's very useful, and then you start combining all the tools. You know, you're streaming your data from the SFTP servers, and we need to make sure that if we tell the SFTP server we downloaded this file has to be persisted properly, otherwise the bank is going to just remove the file from the server for us. So we combine that capability of streaming from the SFTP servers and streaming directly into S3 that gives you the atomic upload. So we know that if there's no exceptions, S3 is going to be an atomic operation. So that's the kind of tools that we're using to make sure that our pipeline is robust, that we don't think we transfer our file to a local file system, we tell that to the SFTP server in the bank, they delete it and the box goes down, then we lose the file. We have to go do manual process, restage the file with the bank, and it becomes a few hour process of back and forth communication with the external provider, that by using the right tools, we know that we are persisting the file in an atomic fashion. So
if you, by accident or whatever, if like the file is gone, is this restaging automatic, or do you actually have to manually request it?
No, we have to go and open a ticket in the bank system and send them an email, and it takes a few hours for them to...
So you really don't want that?
No, we do definitely want to avoid that. So by streaming directly from the SFTP from the bank to S3, we know that as soon as our stream is complete, everything is closed, we know that that S3 will persist that atomic file.
So, you mentioned data pipelines, and I think it's kind of one of the key topics of our community, because we notice Scala is very good at gluing things. So Scala is also used even, in Kafka, in Spark, so Scala is used for some of the pieces of this. But it's also good at kind of connecting things through microservices. So I'm just curious, obviously you guys were a Java shop, right? And so how do you see the kind of adoption of Scala? What are the places where it's being used? Like, how do you see the future? Or like, what's the trajectory? Which parts of the legacy monolith are like chipping off first?
Yeah, well, when I joined, I definitely started with the pipeline, which is the backend of the system that has no direct user impact. I mean, the data, it's going to be served by our services, but there's no user impact. So it was a very easy sell to a company like, hey, let's try this in Scala, so I can show you what we can do with it, with a safe approach and not risk our production systems. Now that we are going to like the process of splitting the monolith, that's where we're identifying different pieces of the system that we want to make sure we provide. We start introducing Scala, and that's kind of my job, is advocating for Scala in LendUp.
And we're on your side.
Yeah, that's great, and it's great to have you here, because it's definitely going to get everybody excited here at LendUp. But yeah, I mean, one of our big goals is scalability. We are a growing business, and then we have to be able to have systems that support that growth. And definitely going to microservices will help us with that. But we definitely think, or I definitely think, that Scala would be the right tool for it. And it's a matter of showing the rest of the team how much stuff you can do. By working on the pipeline, we already started working with engineers in the team that are very excited about it, and they are becoming themselves kind of advocates for the change to Scala, and it's great to have like one of the blob store implementation was built by a person that had never seen Scala before this year. And he was able to get it, digest it, and build it, going back to the point that you don't have to be a a category theory expert or a professor to build these very nice tools and very good code with them.
Cool. Oh, this is great. So I also heard from Ray, our host here, that you guys are using GraphQL. So it got me immediately interested because I've noticed that a lot of Scala companies speak GraphQL, but as I understand, you guys are not yet using it from Scala, right? It's kind of it's a front-end thing. So I'm curious, are you thinking about using GraphQL? What are your thoughts about it? Like, would you guys try something in the backend?
Yes, that's kind of where I have my eyes put for the next project. I think once we get our pipeline stabilized and working end-to-end and out there in production, I would definitely want to start looking at the services that we already have and GraphQL and all those things that we want to improve and grow and see how I can combine Scala with GraphQL. I think that's definitely a very good match, and yeah, it's in the roadmap. And
so I noticed, obviously, like you guys have a JavaScript front end,
yes,
right? Do you interact directly with? Does it call Scala to REST? Or like, what kind of backend is the calling?
That's where we have our GraphQL integration. So basically, our front ends, both our mobile front end and our web dashboard, they both call our GraphQL backend, and that's where we want to start splitting apart the monolith, and we can start having less dependency between all the systems that we have in the monolith, and start having like this dashboard and this front ends can call directly to the GraphQL backend without having to go through a system that right now is doing way too much things in one place.
No, this is really cool because I'm also keeping track of GraphQL. I'm very excited. I think that's like it's a good way for Scala people to kind of sneak into the front end and make it less dynamic, right? I'll be super interested to see how that progresses. And we have folks doing this in the community. So Pinterest is doing GraphQL, Credit Card is using GraphQL on the front end, and they use Scala. So I think there is a very interesting evolution, right? Like I think it's a good opening for us. Well, so thank you very much. I think it was a very good overview of LendUp usage. I really, thank you for open sourcing something, and this is a really good way to integrate with the community. So guys, go to the link for this meetup and find the GitHub repository for this project, FS2 Blob Store.
FS2 Blob Store,
right, and it's under LendUp.
It's under the LendUp organization.
LendUp org on GitHub, and play with this, see if it works for you. I think a lot of companies are doing this. I remember like we did this, a few floors down. We did something like that, not in a streaming, not in a cool fashion, but like you need to get stuff and put it in S3.
Yeah.
Right? So like people are doing this, so check it out and contribute it. Right? That's kind of the open
that's
source.
Definitely the goal, and we hope to see more store implementations very soon.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.